taking its name from medieval troubadours. The troubadour style troubadour in French, was a somewhat derisive term for French historical painting of the early 19th century with idealized depictions of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. It can be seen as an aspect of Romanticism and a reaction against Neoclassicism, which was coming to an end at the end of the Consulate, and became particularly associated with Josephine Bonaparte and Caroline Ferdinande Louise, Duchesse de Berry. In architecture, the style was an exuberant French equivalent to the Gothic Revival of the Germanic and Anglophone countries. The style related to contemporary developments in French literature and music, but the term is usually restricted to painting and architecture. History. The rediscovery of medieval civilization was one of the intellectual curiosities of the beginning of the 19th century, with much input from the ancient regime and its institutions, rites and the medieval churches in which family ceremonies occurred. Even while exhuming the remains of the kings and putting on the market the multitude of objects, works of art and elements of medieval architecture, the revolutionaries brought them back to life. It could be said, the Musée des Monuments Français, established in the former convent that would become Paris's École Nationale Supérieure des Beaux-Arts, presented all this glorious débris of the Middle Ages as subjects of admiration for the public and as models of inspiration for students of the departments of engraving, painting and sculpture, but not those of architecture, since teaching of this subject had been dissociated from the Beaux-Arts and placed in the École Centrale des Travaux Publics under the direction of J.N.L. Durand, a harsh promoter of the neoclassical architecture that characterized the styles of the Convention and Consulate. Later, for the Bourbon Restoration and under the impulse of Quatremère de Quincy and Mary Maillet, a new tradition of teaching architecture put it back under the fine arts umbrella in the margins of the declining official school, beginning with private workshops that behaved as diocesan architects working for historic monuments that would give rise to the Société Centrale des Architectes and make troubadour-style architecture possible. The resurgence of Christian feeling and in Christianity in the arts, with the publication in 1800 of La Génie du Christianisme, played a major role in favor of edifying painting, sculpture and literature, often inspired by religion. Artists and writers rejected the neo-antique rationalism of the French Revolution and turned towards a perceived glorious Christian past. The progress of the history and archaeology in the course of the 18th century began to bear fruit, at first, in painting. Paradoxically, these painters of the past were unaware of the primitives of French painting, finding it too academic and not sufficiently filled with anecdote. Napoleon himself did not disdain this artistic current. He took as his emblem the golden beehive on the grave of the Merovingian king Childeric I, rediscovered in the 17th century, and saw himself as the heir of the French monarchy. He also gave official recognition to the Middle Ages in the forms of his coronation, and tried to profit from other trappings of the medieval French kings, perhaps even the miraculous curative powers. Painting. In painting, the troubadour style was represented by history painting portraying edifying historical episodes, are often borrowing its smoothness, its minute and illusionistic description of detail, its rendering of fabrics, the intimate character of its familiar scenes and its other technical means from Dutch Golden Age painting. The paintings were typically rather small cabinet paintings, are often showing quiet intimate anecdotal moments rather than moments of high drama. though these were both depicted, as well as figures from political history. Famous artists and authors of the past were often shown, especially Raphael and Dante. Ingres' Death of Leonardo da Vinci in the arms of King François I of France is one of several works bringing rulers and artists together. A number of paintings by Ingres are in the style, and lesser artists such as Pierre-Henri Ravoil and Fleury-François Richard specialized in the style. The Belgian Henri Leys painted in a more somber version of the style, much influenced by Northern Renaissance painting. Richard Parkes Bonington is better remembered for his landscapes, but also painted in the style, as did Eugene Delacroix. The peak period was brought to an end by the Revolution of 1848, and later the arrival of realism, although the style arguably merged into late 19th century academic painting. The transition can be seen in the work of Paul Delaroche. Arguably the first troubadour painting was presented at the Salon of 1802, under the French Consulate. It was a work by Fleury Richard Valentine of Milan weeping for the death of her husband, a subject which had come to the artist during a visit to the Musée des Monuments Français, a museum of French medieval monuments. A tomb from this museum was included in the painting as that of the wife. Thanks to its moving subject matter, the painting was an enormous success. Seeing it, David cried, "This resembles nothing anyone else has done. It's a new effect of color. The figure is charming and full of expression, and this green curtain thrown across this window renders the illusion complete." Compositions lit from the back of the scene, with the foreground in semi-darkness, became rather a trademark of the early years of the style. Fragonard's painting of François Premier Ecu Chevalier par Bede has to be read not as a rediscovery of a medieval past, but as a memory of a recent monarchic tradition. Examples: Pierre Nolasque Bergeret, Aretino in the studio of Tintoretto, Salon of 1822, Madame Cheridam, and E.Q.T. Berthaud, The Education of St. Louis. Michel Martin Drolling, The Last Communion of Marie Antoinette, Paris, Conciergerie. Louise Duchesse, Latasse reading a passage from his poem Jerusalem delivered to Princess Eleanor d'Este, formerly in the collection of the Empress Josephine. Arenenberg, Musée Napoléonien, Alexandra Évariste Fragonard, Don Juan, Selina and Lady Elvira, Clermont-Ferrand, Musée des Beaux-Arts, Alexandra Évariste Fragonard. The time approaches. Alexandra Évariste Fragonard, François Premier Armé Chevalier par Bede, Meaux, Musée Bossuet, Baron François Guérard. The recognition of the Duke of Anjou as King of Spain, Château de Chambord. Hortense de Beauharnais, The Knight's Departure c. 1812, Château de Compiègne, originally at the Château de Pierrefonds. Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres, Francesco da Rimini and Paolo Malatesta, frame designed by Claude-Aimé Acute Chenevard Angers, Musée des Beaux-Arts. Jean-Baptiste Isabey, a couple descending the staircase of the Tourelle at the Château d'Harcourt, Salon de 1827. Alexandre Menjard, Francis I and La Belle Ferronnière, 1810. Nicolas André Monsieur, St. Vincent de Paul welcoming the exposed children, Paris, Church of Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois, copy at Toulouse. Musée de la Médecine. Pierre Ravoil, René d'Anjou passing the night at the Château of Palamide de Fabin, commissioned by the Comte de Fabin, a descendant of René d'Anjou. The Tourney, 1812, Lyon, Musée des Beaux-Arts. The Convalescence of Bede, 1817, Paris, Musée du Louvre. Fleury Richard Jacques Molay, Grand Master of the Templars, acquired after the 1806 Salon by the Empress Josephine, inherited from Hortense de Beauharnais. Louis Rubio, The Unlucky Loves of Francesca da Rimini, 1832. Marie-Philippe Coupe de la Couperie, The Tragic Love of Francesca da Rimini, 1812. Architecture. A fashion for medieval architecture may be seen throughout 19th-century Europe, originating in England, and a blooming of the neo-Gothic style. But in France this remains limited to certain feudal buildings in the parks surrounding chateaux. After the Troubadour style disappeared in painting, it seems to have continued in architecture, the decorative arts, literature and theatre. Troubadour buildings. Château de Malmonted Saint-Priest de Bramafont. Architect Pierre-François Léonard de Fontaine. Formerly a hunting lodge on the royal domain of Randon, which was one of Louis Philippe of France's residences. Galerie Saint-Louis Palais de Justice de Paris, built in 1835 by Gisors, in place of a Gothic gallery he had demolished. Château de Pierrefonds, Eugène Viollet-le-Duc architect. Château de Alteribe, at Samantazon, rebuilt by Henriette Onslow, daughter of the musician George Onslow. Château du Barry, at Levignac, a neo-Gothic wing, by the brothers Auguste Virebent and Pascal Virebent, architects in Toulouse. Château de la Rochepot, reconstruction by Marie-Pauline Cécile Dupont, White Widow Sadi Carnet. Château de Clavières at Ernst, built by Ernest de la Salle de Rochemeur. Decorative arts. Horloge Troubadour, in the Empire Troubadour style, 1810, by Major et Amps. Service à Chocolat du Guesclin, manufactured. A Chevreuse cartoon by Alexandra Évariste Fragonard. Bibliography. Aux sources de l'ethnologie française, l'Académie celtique, 1995, Nicole Belmont. This work traces the birth of the fashion for pre-modern architecture and literature. For the middle of the 18th century of the fad for the monuments of the architecture and literature and the beginnings of new inventorizing and research work on the topic among the Benedictines of St. Maur. Painting exhibition catalogue. Le Style Troubadour, Bourg-en-Bresse, Musée de Brune, 1971. Marie-Claude Chardonneret, Le Peinture Troubadour, de Artistes Lyonnais, Pierre Ravoil, Fleury Richard, Arthena, Paris, 1980. Marie-Claude Chardonneret, Tableaux Troubadour, Revue du Louvre, and Degree 5/6, 1983, pages 411 to 413. François Pupil, Le Style Troubadour à la Nostalgie du Bon Vieux Temps, Nancy, Presses. Universitaires de Nancy, 1985. Guy Stersainty, Romance and Chivalry. History and Literature reflected in early 19th century French painting. Stersainty Matheson Gallery, New York, 1996. Maite Boussy, Puissances du Gothique. SOCIE Acute Acutes Namp. Representations, and Degree 20. December 2005. Edited by Bertrand Tillier. Literature Comte de Tressan, Ouvres Croisiers de Tressan, Corps de Romans de Chevalerie, 1782–1791, 12 volumes, Chez Garnier, Paris. Hotel Serpenta, comprising Amadis de Gaulle, Roland Furieux, Flore Blanche Effler, Histoire du Petit Jehan de Saintré, Cléome de Clermont, Le Roman de la Rose, Arthus de Bretagne, Fleurs de Bataille, Domercino de Navarone, Donia Ines de Video, Gerard de Nevers, etc. Its accompanying illustrative engravings, showing decorated and figured troubadour scenes, were a great success. Horace Walpole, The Castle of Otranto. Architecture Guy Masson Le Goff, Château and Acute Gothique Saint-Ange. Edition Nicolas Chowden, Paris, 2007.